Wayne Flower and Professor David Wilson join us now. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being here. Wayne, thanks so much for staying up to talk to us. I imagine it's been a very long day for you over there in Australia. What's been the reaction to the sentencing?
G'day, guys. Thanks for having me. Well, the reaction, look, I guess it brings closure, if nothing else, for the families of the victims and for everyone, really. I mean, it's been a 2-year ordeal, finally put to bed. Well, unless Erin Patterson, of course, has 28 days to appeal that sentence, but 33 years, I think she should be grateful that she got a non-parole period, because really it was a pretty shocking crime and she didn't have a lot going for her to mitigate that sentence. So, yeah, I think she's pretty lucky.
What's been her sort of demeanour throughout the trial, Wayne? Has she shown much emotion?
No, look, I was sitting, you know, a metre and a bit away from her today, and look, during the trial, she would show some emotion, seemed to be choking back tears. I'd never really noticed any tears from her at any stage, at any time, even during the pre-sentence hearing when Ian Wilkinson sat there and addressed her personally. She looked like she was choking back some tears, but I didn't see any. And today it was something else altogether. She looked almost like she was doped up, like she had taken some Valiums or something, because she looked like she was sleeping throughout much of the sentence. I'm sure she wasn't, but she just was kicking back in her chair. She had her eyes closed and nothing. You got nothing from her. She didn't acknowledge her one friend who would come in and out of the court, and yeah, just really cold, no emotion whatsoever. And when she was led from the court, she sort of gave our media table a tap 3 times as she walked past, and that's as much of anything we saw from her.
Wow. Because I've been also listening to some of the victims when they were making statements in court, and actually they've been so eloquent, Wayne, during like really difficult times. Have you spoken to them at all? Do you know what their feelings are?
Well, no, look, Ian Wilkinson came out after the sentence today and gave some brief words. Really, he just thanked the police and emergency services and everyone who helped him. He has been just dignified throughout this whole process. He spoke somewhat to his congregation. Of course, he's a pastor around when it happened, but he hasn't said anything other than what he said. He's left his talking to within the court. And of course, he gave some very powerful, compelling evidence during that trial. And again, he gave a very powerful victim impact statement. So Ian Wilkinson has said pretty much everything Ian Wilkinson needs to say publicly, and he's asked to be left alone at the moment. So, yeah, I think we'll be doing that.
Wayne, you met her, didn't you, very early on in the case? You actually got to interview. What was your initial impression of her? And there was some bizarre scenario that you ended up stuck in her back garden.
Well, it was her front garden. It was very surreal. I mean, we'd heard that this had happened. It was only really a couple of paragraphs. A reporter called John Ferguson from The Australian had reported it, and we all rushed down to her house at Lee and Gather. And I was there. I had my knee in a brace. I was a bit injured. She opened the gates. We all bolted in. I hobbled in. You would have seen some of the video that she said. She sort of put on a bit of a display. Her dog ran out. She said she was not feeling well. Shut the door and then locked us all in the front of her front yard. So we had to go and climb over her fence, and, you know, I scaled it and fell in the mud. But I just thought, even at that stage, that this just can't be. She just seems like some ordinary housewife who's made a big mistake. But it wasn't until really the next day where she eyeballed me off and with the cameras were down and started yelling at me for trespassing on her property that I thought, you know, I think maybe there's something more to you.
Yeah. And Wayne, do you think she'll appeal?
Look, if she could, she would, but I don't think she's got any money left. Right. She had a very experienced barrister who has been representing her for a long time. I mean, the pre-trial went on for months and months before the actual trial happened. You had an 11-week trial. He's now done the pre-sentence. He's now done the sentence. she would have been banking on, you know, obviously walking free, getting access to a house. The police now have that house. She'll get no money. She's not going to be able to sell that. She's run out of money. She's going to have to get, I would think, legal aid to run any appeal. They need to find an error in law. Maybe she could appeal the length of her sentence. But like I said earlier, you know, I think she's done pretty well, even throughout the trial. Everything went her way. It was run really well. The judge was very careful. So, yeah, but we'll wait and see.
OK.
Well, Wayne, thank you for filling us in from your perspective. We're glad you made it out of the garden, that's for sure, to join us today.
And didn't have a snack.
Thank you.
No.
That could have been dreadful.
No.
Professor David Wilson's here. It's been fascinating, David, and absolutely gripping. As soon as you talk about death by poison or something to do with a beef Wellington laced with death cap mushrooms, your attention is gripped because it's like a plot to a murder mystery, isn't it? What did you think when you first heard about what had happened?
Well, I don't think I'm particularly suspicious, but as soon as I knew some of the details of what took place at the lunch, I immediately said, oh no, this is suspicious, she's guilty. And what really convinced me was the different coloured plate.
So explain that.
So she serves her 4 guests the poison cap beef Wellington on one colour of plate, and her plate was a completely different colour. Now, that to me seems really suspicious. And of course, she doesn't realise that it's going to be suspicious to us because she didn't expect anyone to survive the lunch. And the only reason we have some of these details that we're now trying to make sense of is because Ian Wilkinson, she was obviously convicted of attempted murder of Ian Wilkinson. Ian Wilkinson survives the lunch and is able to provide us with details. And some of those details, to me, were very suspicious.
So what do you think was her motive? You always say it's the 4 L's that you look for a motive. So what was hers? And why did she kill all the others as well?
Yeah, that's a very good question. The 4 L's, I always say, are loot, love, lust and loathing. And if you just look at the first one, I won't go through them all, but if you just look at the first one, loot. She inherited money from her grandparents. She inherited other stacks of money, and therefore she's not doing this. She's not killing because she hopes to financially benefit from someone else's death. I don't think it's about lust. I don't think it's about love. This is a story that's always been about loathing, and in particular, loathing her estranged husband, Simon Patterson, who she expects to turn up at the lunch. Her big mistake was when he didn't turn up at the lunch, not to postpone and set the date for another time. But that was her big mistake. But I think it also reveals something about her underlying personality and her relationship with Simon Patterson, that she wanted to control him, had controlled him in the past, expected to control him in that moment, and therefore believed that no matter what, he would still turn up at the lunch and she'd kill him.
It's extraordinary because I think that everybody sort of considers her to be quite a smart person, and yet it feels like there's some fundamental naivety in some of the way she's gone about this, some of the holes in her evidence, some of the way she's tried to explain away what happened.
Well, again, perfectly fair argument, but again, I don't think she imagined that anybody was going to survive. And a lot of the holes in her evidence are only holes because we now have knowledge about what happened at the lunch because of Ian Wilkinson. But yeah, this is an intelligent woman. This is somebody who was an accountant, an air traffic controller. This involved a great deal of planning, what she had done. And that kind of planning, and remember, the court was never allowed to know that she had previously attempted to poison her estranged husband on 3 separate occasions.
3 times, right? Not once.
And he never went to the police. But that allows her to perfect her modus operandi, that allows her to perfect what she's going to do, and it also gives her confidence. You know, she's put this man in hospital, and remember, the Australians weren't allowed to hear this evidence. It was never taken into court. Yeah. And so, you know, she's been allowed to perfect what she does, which also must have given her a greater degree of confidence in terms of what was going to take place on the lunch when 3 people die and one
Of course, those attempts never went to court, so that's not been proven. But I think we've got a bit of footage of her so people at home can get a sense of how she came across when she was being interviewed.
It's a wonderful piece of footage just as the story is breaking.
I'm so devastated by what's happened. They were some of the best people that I've ever met. Gail was like...
Take your time.
Gail was the mum that I didn't have. They were some of the best people I've ever met. They never did anything wrong to me, and I'm so devastated about what's happened.
It's just really... I mean, again, when I saw that, I didn't particularly
knowing that she's been found guilty of murdering 3 of them and attempted murder, when you suddenly see that out of context, it's extraordinary.
Well, it was even extraordinary before she was found guilty, because there was that was a very performative piece of behaviour by her. And even if you listen to what Wayne was telling us earlier about him being in the front garden, the front yard, having a knee brace on, having to climb over, and she didn't seem particularly worried by that. Again, it goes to this, once you get rid of the 4 L's, which are all instrumental, you've got the underlying personality, and the underlying personality of the person that I saw in that clip was somebody who lacked empathy. And to this day, she's never provided any explanation for what she had done. She's still maintaining her innocence, and she's also still refused to tell us, you know, why she did what she did.
Which all kind of fuel the fire and the media interest. But do you think it's fundamentally because it was poison? We get so interested in it. It's like old stories from old, isn't it?
It is absolutely. You know, as human beings, we've survived. We've evolved as a species by being able to determine what we can ingest safely and what we can't because they're poisonous. So in our subconscious as a species is to be careful about what it is that we're going to eat. Think about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and the poison apple. Shakespeare plays. Think about what happens in Salisbury with the poisoning of the Skripals. You know, it's built into our DNA that we've got to be really careful about the kinds of things that we eat. And that's what's captured, I think, the attention of the world. It's not so much cosy crime, though, Ben, remember, because the people who died, and Ian Wilkinson, who survived, were in utter agony, and how slowly and agonising their deaths must have been.
Oh, it's awful to consider that. David, thank you for coming in and sharing a little bit of insight. And thank you again, Wayne, for staying with us and giving us your insight from the courtroom as well. It's great to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.